y'all's what's up? Quick life update. I'm kind of packing my car, getting ready to live in my car because I can't stay in the retirement home anymore. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. Um, I've lived in worse places in my car. Won't be too bad. I'll probably head out west if I can. Mid-December to early January-ish. I'm not sure. Um, I'm not gonna have fun living in my car in the winter, but I don't have anywhere else to go. So yeah, that's just all I'm gonna say about that. So, what I wanted to actually talk about was us versus labels, and what a label is, and what is the societal place for a label, and why labels can be bad. So, when we talk about labels, a label it's just a categorization of something. Uh, the dictionary says, especially an inaccurate or restrictive one. So, that's what a label is. Um, when you're talking about labels, there's sides of society that don't see them as necessary or completely write them off. There's sides of society that think they're good. There's and then when you have the side of the society that thinks they're good, you always have people talking like in the comments about, but I thought labels were bad. Why do you need this label? I thought labels were bad. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So first I'll touch on the good side of labels. So labels that we give ourselves provide a way for us to communicate our experiences, our our adjectives, parts of us that we would like to say, I am this, and I now fit into this group. It gives us a community, um, and people who we can relate to. This is why labels like lesbian, gay, trans, whether you use transsexual or transgender, all of those kind of labels, this is why they're so important to people, because they give that sense of community. They give people the ability to communicate their experiences and their feelings and all of that. And there are a lot of labels we give ourselves over time, I think. Um, and that's essentially what they should be for. But on the bad side of things, when you give yourself a label, you can become too involved in it. It can become your entire identity. Um, I've seen people whose entire identity revolves around being a lesbian, like TERFs. Their entire identity revolves around being a woman or around being a lesbian. Some people's entire identity revolves. Not all lesbians are TERFs, and not all TERFs are lesbians, but that was just an example. Because TERFs tend to be lesbians, and their identity revolves around being a lesbian who doesn't like trans women. But I know people whose entire identity revolves around how queer they are, or how oppressed they are, or how straight they are. The straight pride movement, they have this, uh, they're so involved, so obsessed with their identity as straight, their label as straight, and they use it to attack other people. Um, so we can get too involved in these identities and think that they're the only thing to us. They're the only thing that defines us. Labels are not the only thing that defines us. They're not the only way we should define ourselves. They're not the only way we should think about ourselves. You should think about yourself in terms of, how you treat other people and the things you like to do and the things you like to watch, it shouldn't just be who you are or what labels you fit into that define you. Um, so it's like when you go on Tumblr and you see a 14-year-old and their Tumblr bio is just their labels. They're like ADHD, autism, trans, genderqueer, feminist, a million different labels, and it tells you really nothing about them. You don't know who they are. You don't know whether you just know that it revolves around that set of identities. But it doesn't tell you anything much about them as a person. There are a million genderqueer, identifying feminists or, trans identifying people, and they're all different from each other. And just don't let labels completely define you. Another bad side of labels is the labels that we put onto other people, that society puts onto us, labels we can't escape from, labels that society lets define us and lets define how they treat us. So, in my life, I've picked up a lot of labels. Early in my life, I was born blonde. Well, very sandy blonde, but still blonde nonetheless. I was a very pretty little girl. I loved to read. I was pretty much well behaved. And in the foster care system, those were all really good things. It meant I was treated very well. Whereas my brother, who fit a whole nother box of labels, was not. He was beaten. He was treated horribly, and those labels were kind of what did it. The demographics we fell into changed the way we were treated a lot. As I got older, I got labeled as a foster child in schools, and that affected how I was treated. And then as I got labeled a genius in school, and that affected how I was treated. And the fact that I was labeled a genius very early meant that the standards I was held to were different. It meant that I never learned to study because I could just do everything. It meant that teachers expected a lot more of me. And so failure felt worse. It felt like a non-option. I was almost at this precipice of, I'd rather not try for fear of failing. I want to do something I know I'm good at because I don't want my label as a genius taken away. And that was a harmful label. As I got older, after my brother died, I started getting into trouble. I got arrested, and I got labeled a bad kid, and that affected how I was treated in school, and that affected my behavior, and kind of a mirrored effect where as I was treated worse, I behaved worse, and as I behaved worse, I was treated worse, and that kind of led to my downward spiral in high school because of all the things that nobody cared about was going on in my head and at home. They only cared about the label I had at school. And that led to my inability to really do what I needed to do to succeed in high school. I've learned through living a less than traditional life that you are always going to have labels, and they're always going to affect how you're treated. And it's really hard to escape that. But you have to kind of steel yourself up against it and learn how to live your life. Learn what is the right path for you. And that takes a long time. I'm currently kind of coming into the fact that I'm choosing, but also I feel it's the most appropriate thing, the most comfortable thing is, for me, a non-traditional life. I like the idea of living in my car on my own, just being an artist, even if that means living pretty poor and taking shit jobs on the side as I go. And that's the kind of thing that would get you labeled a lot, vagrant or starving artist or whatever, And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with living a non-traditional life. I've kind of let that fear of I've let that fear kind of melt away, and I like doing my art my way. I like living my life my way, and I'm just gonna go with the flow, and I'm not gonna worry about what other people think of me and how other people label me. I'm just gonna worry about the ways I label myself. And I think everybody should strive for that. Strive to let other people's labels bother you as little as possible, because, in the long run, they're always gonna bother you a little. But don't let it turn you into other things. Don't let other people's labels turn you into things you're not. And don't let your labels drown you. Don't let your labels become your entire identity. And just live. Alright, I think that's really all I have to say. I will see y'all motherfuckers later. Bye.